Good evening, everyone. You are all welcome to APEX Professional Associates for PSAF class. Let me mention first that the timetable will be adjusted to reflect the change and all other adjustment that has occurred on the timetable. Please, Mr. Oyedele, you can share the YouTube link to them. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Oyedele, can you hear me? You can unmute. I've sent you the link for the YouTube so that people that are not able to join can join on YouTube. Okay. Welcome to APEX International Associates. This will be your first class for PSAF, right? Confirm that. Is this your first class for PSAF?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Apologies for the short delay. We're just trying to round up from one class, then join the other class. And then Mr. Idile is just getting home, so he has to just set up and get himself prepared. So, but I have to even confirm whether you can hear us or you can unmute and say something. Let me confirm that because it's not talking. Just give me a few seconds. Let me try and put a call through to him.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Your voice is low. I don't think the sound is coming out clearly.
I'm trying to deal with it.
We can't hear you yet. You are trying to do what?
I'm trying to switch the two networks to see which one will be run smoothly. The network is kind of terrible. So I'm trying to switch
So you are
between.
trying to switch between network.
Yes.
Okay. But guys, can you hear him clearly?
Yes, I hear you.
I mean, can you hear Mr. Oyedele?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so Mr. Aziz, I've sent you the link for the YouTube. Can you share to them? Otherwise, it'll be disturbing people that are not able to join the Google Meets. Check your chats on WhatsApp and forward to the group.
Okay.
So once again, my name is Kabiru Yusuf Aremu. So your tutor. I'm the lead tutor and founder of APEX Professional Associates. And this will be our first class for PSAF, Public Sector Accounting and Finance for these diets. You would agree with me. Some persons, please, can you mute? Okay, that solar, please. Mute. There's no time. Okay, so for tonight, we'll be having our introductory class, and you would also be introduced to the syllabus. So we won't waste much of our time because this class is supposed to start from 9, supposed to be between 9 and 11. So I will introduce to you Mr. Abdulaziz Oyedele, joining us from Osun State. And then some other tutors that will be joining you. We have Mr. Olayinka Benson, joining us from Bayelsa, from Yenegua. So it's part of your PSAF tutors. We have Mr. Fadre Kende will be joining us from Lagos, and Mr. Philip will also be joining us from Lagos. So these are your 4 tutors for PSAF. And then, like as you have seen, APES is an online-based tuition center. And that's why we have tutors around the locations of the country, and we also have some tutors abroad. We have a tutor, we have I think 2 tutors that join us from the United Kingdom, and then we'll be adding value to us as students. So guys, the class will start now at exactly 9:30. So I need your decorum, please. The only way you can actually respect the time and the schedule of tutors is for you to respect, to be composed in class. Please don't let us make noise. Please mute yourself. If you know you can't mute, you can exit, let other person join, right? And if you have any question, please raise your hand or you suspend it at the end of the class. Your questions will be attended to. So, Mr. Abdulaziz, you have the floor now. Let's welcome him with emoji. Let's welcome him with emoji. So you can start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, once again.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I believe everyone can hear me clearly. Please,
Yes,
if
it's
at
clear
any
now.
point you
It's clear.
stop, if at any point you stop hearing me, please, somebody will quickly raise observations so that I can know. My name is Abdulaziz, and I'm one of the tutors that will be taking us through this interesting um, discussion about public sector accounting and finance. I don't usually like to call PSAF a lecture or class. I usually prefer to let us say it's a discussion. Or sometimes in one of my physical class, I told them let's say it's a podcast that can just share ideas amongst ourselves, because PSAV is one interesting course that is easy for us to relate with it. By the time we start revealing the course, especially to some of us that are taking it for the first time, you see that it's something that you can relate with in your environment, something that you can, in fact, you are in a filling station, you just pick something and it's inside PSAF because you are hearing it from the radio, over the radio in the filling station, and it's just PSAF. So it's something that is always around us, always, in our faces every time. So it's something that we can all discuss together and enjoy the journey for the next couple of months. So, like the lead tutor founder said, we'll be doing an introduction to the course. Today is going to be an introductory class, and we'll be looking at the syllabus itself, especially the new syllabus. Look at it, the introduction to the syllabus, and then go a little bit into the first chapter of the syllabus and have a discussion on that within the next an hour and a half. Also, uh, before the time the class is going to end, I'm going to try as much as possible to ensure that there is enough time at the end for those of us that may have a couple of questions that we want to ask about what we are able to discuss today, and as well about the course, about the PSAF course generally that you may want to ask. So just be ready with your questions that you may want to ask. we'll go through the question. Okay. Now, before we start going to PSAF itself deeply, I just want to quickly, within a couple of minutes, also talk to us about our ICANN journey, because it's a courage. It requires courage. Let me say it requires courage for us, for anybody to want to take up the ICANN journey, because during your journey you're going to face a lot of challenges. You need mind. And let me use the street language. You go get mind if you want to do ICANN. It's not that it's difficult actually. It's not that it's difficult to do, but it's just that it's something that requires you to, give it all you have, give it your attention, your commitment. So I want to encourage all of us that the courage that we have that has brought us here should not diminish. We should not drop that courage. We should try to continue. For those that must have attempted it before, and maybe it's not, the result doesn't come out the way they want, fine. It doesn't matter. You try again, because it is the person that wins at the end of the day that can, that can be able to say proudly at the end that, I did it. So that's just my little word of encouragement for us. So going into PSAF, so that we won't waste time. I know that other tutors too would have given you us some other encouragement as well. So going into PSAF, like all other courses, the examination is 100, is based on 100%, and the PSAF syllabus is divided into about 5 parts. Okay, so you have part A, B, C, D. Okay, it's 4 parts. So the first part talks about the introduction to the course itself, and then goes on to talk about the regulatory frameworks that guides the public sector accounting.
Mr. Wedeli, are you sharing your screen?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
all right, the so the first part talks about the regulatory aspect of public sector accounting, different laws, talk about the ethics, the ethical guidelines in the public sector accounting, and so on. And then the second part basically talks about budgeting and planning. So it's an important aspect of the syllabus, the budgeting and planning aspect. It's very, very important aspect of the syllabus. It takes about 20% of the syllabus itself, and about 20% of our examination itself. And then the third part, we talk about the reporting and auditing. So that's where we'll talk about how public sectors, organizations prepare their reports, the different kinds of reports that are expected of them, the different kind of books that they keep, different kind of records that are kept in the public sector organizations, and how public sector organizations are being audited. So that is the third part of the syllabus, which is part C. And then the fourth and the last part talked about the public finance. So this also is one important aspect of the syllabus that nobody should miss. I mean, nobody should go into the exam hall without equipping yourself with knowledge of this part of the syllabus. You don't have business with the PSAF exam if you don't have this part of the syllabus on you. So it's very important part of the syllabus. Public finance basically talks about government economic policies and how these policies affect the people, how they affect the public. So that's what that part basically talks about. So if hearing about how government take loans, the debts, how government make revenues, how government um, organizations, the different you know, kinds of government organizations that we have, and so on. So those are the 4 parts of the syllabus. The first part talks about the regulatory and the ethical part of ethical aspects of public
I
sector
don't know
accounting
if
and
you can
finance.
see, Mr. Oyele, sorry for interrupting. I'm trying to see if I can help to share.
With to share screen, okay.
Yeah, so maybe one of the students can also help out self to actually share the same, because me, I'm currently busy with so if you can't share, if you may not be able to share from your end. So
I'll share, but I'm connecting from my phone. I'm not connected from my laptop.
yeah, I see that. I see that. So one of them can actually help you. Did you want to still do a rundown of the syllabus?
No,
Or you
not
want
really. Yeah, just the
not?
4 points. I just want to make
Okay,
the
okay,
four
I'll
points.
start afresh. Okay, that's fine.
This I believe everyone have the summarized syllabus with us, so we
They
can
have, they should have gone
take
through.
time to go
So
take time to
it's
go
not
through
something that
it, and you can. It's something that you also should be following as the lectures are going. You follow that summarized syllabus to see if any parts of the syllabus is being missed out, so that you can call our attention to it, and then you can sort it out. So I welcome you once again to the. Okay, somebody said it doesn't have it. It's on the group.
we will
Maybe it will
share
be
it.
shared
Very
again
simple.
after the
Please
class. Okay,
continue class.
we'll share it again after the class. So I welcome you once again to the PSAF journey. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fantastic. Other tutors as well. You meet them as their time comes. Mr. Philip is supposed to join this class tonight for us to usher in everyone together, but I think he had some technical issues. He couldn't join anymore. So I'm just going to uh, go ahead with the introduction to the public sector accounting and finance. So when we say public sector, what comes to mind? What comes to your mind when you just hear public sector? Once in a while, I'll be going through
Public
the
fund.
attendance to call 1 or 2 people so that I can be sure that we are all we are all active in the call. All right. So I'm seeing one fine man here. Imole Ayo. Mr. Imole Ayo. Are you on the call?
Yes,
Or you are working? Okay, what comes to your mind when you hear public sector?
okay, good evening, sir. What comes to my mind whenever I heard about public sector is talks about um, the activities that surround government, their civil servants, how they carry out budgets and how they reach out to everybody in the country. That's the one thing that always comes to my mind whenever I hear
Okay,
about.
thank you. Um, Madam Oluwashola, are you with us?
Good evening. Yes, so
Good evening. What do you think about public sector? What what comes to your mind when you hear public sector?
I think public sector is just like public sector. That's the government and the people.
Okay, government and the people. Okay, Mr. Emmanuel too also mentioned it is the government. Okay, all right. Now, accounting and finance. I don't think I should. I don't think I should ask us what accounting means again, because at this level we are in skills level. Anybody that is here is already an accountant. I should not be asking you what is the meaning of accounting. So we shouldn't be asking ourselves what's the meaning of accounting any longer. Anybody that is here is an accountant, even if you don't study accounting. as long as you are in skills level in ICANN, it means you have gone through foundation, and it means you have passed FA. So you are an accountant. So the public sector, when you say public sector, is you're just referring to organizations that are owned and that are owned by the people, that are owned by the public, organizations that belong to the public, but they are managed by representatives of the people. All the government organizations that we know belong to the people. Does not belong to the people that are running those organizations. It belongs to the people. So, but because every one of us cannot go there and be running it, so we appoint representatives from amongst us to go there and run it on our behalf. So those people running it on our behalf, they are government officials, but the organizations they are running belong to the people. So when we say public sector, we are referring to organizations that belong to the people, that belong to the public, but are run by a few people on behalf of the people. All right. Now, accounting, the same definition of accounting that we all know. The process of recording transactions, um, summarizing the transactions, analyzing those transactions, and then reporting the transactions. And sometimes involve interpreting it. After you have reported, you still interpret those transactions. So that is accounting that we know. And then finance basically is talking about the economy, the how the economy is managed. So when we now say this course is public sector accounting and finance, so it's talking about how organizations that are owned by the people, that are run by government, how this organization, how do they carry out their accounting process? That is, the transactions that they engage in, they are buying and selling and whatever that they engage in. How do they record those transactions? How do they now report it to the people? And then, what are the policies that comes from government? What are the policies that government enacts, and how these policies affect the people? That is basically what we will be talking about in this course entirely. In fact, if you have known this definition now, you have known PSAF. Now you can go and write exam. So this is what we'll be talking about all through. All right. So this why are you laughing? It's true now. You can just go and write exam once you know this definition. So what we will now be doing is that this simple meaning of public sector accounting and finance that we have talked about is what we will now be breaking down into pieces for the next couple of months. So today, everything we will cover today, I'll be pointing out to you some parts that we will still do a complete topic on them, afterwards. So you see that this our lecture for today is like a summary. It's like what is known as executive summary in one of the courses in professional class, uh, case study. When you are writing your report, you say executive summary. So this chapter is like an executive summary of the entire syllabus that will talk about the things that will now expand later. Now, now move us to this public sector accounting and finance that some people have put together as a concept, as a course. What are the objectives? Why do we have them? Why did some people just come together and bring this thing together and say, let this thing be a course? Is it because they just want to be disturbing candidates and just disturbing candidates to write exam on this thing? What are the objectives of putting this together? Number one is that public sector accounting and finance, it is the objective of this course or of this concept that transactions of government organizations will be recorded so that all government organizations, how will their transactions be recorded? It is public sector accounting and finance that will guide us. Because once, as long as these organizations are engaging in transactions, these transactions have to be recorded because they have to report to the public. We said that government officials that run government organizations are not the owners of those organizations. Those staff that you see at CBN, at NNPC, at Federal Ministry of Works, they don't own those organizations. They are running them on behalf of the people. So, which means they have to report. So, if you send your younger one or your subordinate at work and you send them some errand, they have to go do what you send them and then come back and report to you and say, I've done what you sent me, this, and that. So, for them to be able to report, they have to be recording now. Because if they don't record, what will they report? So, public sector accounting will help these organizations to be able to record all their financial transactions. So, and you learn this by the time we get to the part C of the syllabus, where we're talking about reporting and auditing in the public sector. So you see all the different records, the books of records that are used in public sector, and we'll discuss them. Those that require computation, we'll compute them, we'll prepare their financial statements and all of that. Okay. Another thing is that public sector accounting assists the organizations, the public sector organizations, to plan and control the organization. They can be able to plan with public sector accounting because the tools that are provided in public sector accounting is what will help the organizations to be able to plan. Talk about budgets, talk about the financial statements, and so on. Talk about audit reports that are prepared. All this will help organizations to be able to plan for the future. The budget itself is a plan that public sector organizations prepare. So this budget also will help the government as a whole to be able to now plan for how to um, provide the dividends of democracy to the people, as politicians used to say it. So another objective of public sector accounting is that it will help those organizations to to show evidence of their stewardship to the people. That is by reporting. When they report to the people, this is our report for the year, this is our annual report, this is our financial statement. They are giving stewardship to the people. That the job you are giving to us, we have been able to do it. This is what we have been able to do. I believe we are together. So if you are together, please show emoji, please. Show me emojis. Let me know we are together.
Someone is disturbing. Amina.
Who is not mute?
Amina. You.
All right. Then another objective of public sector accounting is that it will help organizations to carry out their operations, their financial transactions, so to say, according to laws. Because public sector accounting is not only talking about how to prepare a report, it will also talk about the laws, the regulations that guide financial operations of government organizations. All right. So, did someone say my volume is low? Okay, I'll do that. I'll increase the volume. All right. So, I was saying,
Yes, I
the
can hear you.
laws that guide public sector, that guides operations, the financial operations of government organizations, are still part of what we will learn in public sector accounting. So public sector accounting and finance also comes with the different laws, the different regulations that guide the financial operations. So we talk about the IPSAS, that is the International Public Sector Accounting Standards. Those are we have the International Accounting Standard, the IAS, and the IFRS for private organizations to prepare their accounts. So we have the IPSAS that guides the preparation of accounts for public sector organization, that is International Public Sector Accounting Standards. So we talk about other laws like the Appropriation Act. The Act is basically talking about the budget. It's a law in itself. So we are going to learn that also in subsequent classes. How we know that the budget is not just a document, it's a law itself. Then there is a document known as financial regulation. Financial regulation is like the handbook, the financial handbook of accountants and other public officers who are dealing with finances in the public sector. It guides them how to treat different things. It talks about the responsibilities of different officers. It talks about how transactions should be recorded and all of that. So the laws that guides operations, the financial operations in public sector, are part of the objectives where this why this course is there. Then lastly, performance evaluation. So public sector accounting and finance also aims at helping organizations to evaluate their performance, helps the public to evaluate the performance of organizations. The organization itself as well will be able to evaluate their own performance. That is because through reporting, so by through reporting, through other tools like budgeting and so on, we'll be able to see this organization, have they done well? Have they delivered on their mandate? So those are the objectives of public sector accounting and finance. Now, we have been saying that public sector organizations will prepare reports. They'll prepare reports. Okay. Now, this report that they prepare, how is it useful? Who is it useful to? Who uses them? So that will lead us to the users of financial information in the public sector, users of public sector accounting information. So who are the users of the um, reports that comes out of the public sector, the financial information that comes out from the public sector? Basically, there are two users. There are the internal users, and of course, then the external users. The internal users are those within the organization, within the executive arm or of the government, and others within the organizations. Talk about the employees, talk about the heads, the executive heads of organizations. So we're talking about the governors, the president, the chairman of local governments, talking about the ministers that are heading ministries. We are talking about the commissioners. We're talking about administrators, permanent secretaries, and so on. Director generals, um, managing directors, GM, and all the general managers, and so on. The heads organizations, they need public sector accounting information. One, for them to evaluate themselves and see if they have been doing well, for them to see how their organization is doing by themselves. So employees as well want to they are interested in the financial information of their organizations that they are working for. You know, most very importantly because of their continuous pay, for them to see that okay, this organization that we're working for is still viable, is still a going concern that will be able to continue to pay us if they're interested. Then the external users, we have people or organizations that are outside of the executive arm of government, outside the operational arm of government. So leading that is the legislatures, that is the National Assembly, the State Assembly, and so on. The legislatures are interested because there is what is known as the oversight function of the legislature. Who knows what the oversight function is? Okay, who am I seeing here? And I'm Tofumi. Are you with us? Okay. Jeremiah. Are you on the call? Is Jeremiah with us? Jeremiah too is not there. Okay, Amaka, is Amaka there? I hope you guys are not sleeping.
No, sir, we're not sleeping. We're with you.
Okay,
We are here, sir.
the people have been calling, they have not been responding. Okay,
We are active, sir.
okay. Oh yeah, let somebody to tell me what oversight function is. You know what oversight is? Oversight function of the legislature. Anybody?
Check and balance.
To
Good evening,
review,
sir.
so the
Hello, sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
The oversight function can simply refer to as the process or structure that the government implement to the evaluation of the government overall.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you try this monitor because you use the word monitor. So oversight function. You see, one of the beauty of this course is that by time at the end of this course entirely, there are some things that you now hear. You will now be able to relate with them when you hear them, whether in the news or you hear them, whether somebody is making an address or you are in a function, in a seminar or conference, and then the speaker is talking about some things. It sounds like, what does this thing even mean? But at the end of this course, you'll be able to now relate with those things. So the oversight function is what we can just say evaluation. So it's like a supervisory function that the legislatures do. You know, legislatures normally we all know that they are agree, but you also do what you follow up. But you do follow up that legislatures do to of government are whether for them, whether they are following the budget that the legislature have approved for them. So that is known as oversight function. The oversight function is not only in finance; they can, they oversee general operations of different organizations from the legislature. So that's what oversight. So because for the legislature to be able to do this oversight function, they need the financial for them because accounting position of it's like they will not be able to supervise, they will not be able to monitor, they will not be able to evaluate the performance of those organizations. Members of the public as well are also interested in the financial information of government organizations because they want to see it is their organization, so they want to see how these organizations are performing. All right. Okay. Also, there are the government, apart from the government that is reporting, so that is government of other countries or government of other states are interested. The federal government sometimes want to see the financial information. Um, is it my own network that is having issues, or those people um, that are commenting about network? Okay, somebody is written and please go ahead. The person raising hand, please Let's hear you.
So the network is actually skipping. Like we can hear you, but some of the things you are saying we can't hear. For example, the oversight function that you mentioned, we did not get it because of the network. Like it was skipping. It's like maybe you moved your mic closer to your mouth. So the thing is somehow.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. The network is actually doing me dirty too anyway. But okay. Is it clear like this? How about like this?
Yeah, it's okay. No.
All right. Okay. So you said you didn't get what I said about the oversight function. The oversight, let me repeat that very quickly. The oversight function of the legislature is about supervision, is about monitoring and evaluation. So the legislature make laws, that is their duty, but they do follow up and see if organizations, government organizations are actually following those laws that have been made, if they are running their organization in accordance to laws and regulations that guide those organizations. So if they are following, if their expenditures have been according to what has been budgeted for them, what have been approved for them in their budgets. So that is what is known as the oversight function of the legislature. So what we now said, for the legislature to be able to perform this oversight function, they need financial information of those organizations, because if they don't know how the finances of those organizations look like, how would they be able to monitor them? How would they be able to evaluate those organizations? So that was what we say about oversight function. And then we talk about the general public as well, that they are interested in financial information of government organizations, because we said it is their organization and they want to know how these organizations are faring. We said government of other, government as well are interested in that. So the state governments are interested in financial information of federal government as well is interested in that of the state government, and so on. And then foreign financial institutions as well are interested. They also use financial information of government organizations. Which foreign financial institutions are we talking about? We're talking about organizations like the World Bank, like the African Development Bank, like the International Monetary Fund, and so on. DFID, USAID, UNICEF, WHO, they are interested in financial information of government organizations, because some of these organizations are creditor organizations that they give loans to to government. So they want to see if these organizations that they are giving loans to are actually viable enough to be able to pay back. Some of them give grants. So they want to see those organizations that they have given grants to, they want to see their reports and see if they have used those grants correctly and if they have reported correctly on how those grants were collected and how they were applied and so on. Then we have creditors also are interested in the financial information of government organizations, both local and foreign creditors, that is, those that the government are owing. People, the contractors that have given job to that they have not paid, they want to see the budget of the next year, whether the money you are going to pay them has been captured in the budget, and so on. And so other organizations, civil society organizations, all, and so on and so forth. Financial institutions, banks, they want to see the financial information of government for their own planning as well. So that is about that. You can read up the rest in the study text. Then we'll look at the regulatory frameworks of public sector accounting. So what are the laws that guides public sector accounting and finance? The laws, laws generally that guides the operations of government organizations. What are those? There are several laws that guides them in area of accounting and finance. We are looking at the area of accounting and finance now. That's our focus. So we have if we have an organization now, there are different laws that will be guiding that organization. For example, there are organizations that even have their own acts that establish them. The laws will state how those organizations have to be run and so on. But the financial aspects of their operation. What are those laws that guides the financial activities of government organizations? Number one of those laws is the Constitution, the Nigerian Constitution. There are several sections of the Nigerian Constitution that talk about issues that relate to accounting and finance. So there are laws, there are sections that talk about establishment of uh, consolidated revenue fund. There are those that talk about the office of the Auditor General. There are laws that talk about how the remuneration of public officers are supposed to be. These are issues, these are financial issues, but they are in the Constitution. The Constitution give guidance on them. So there are some issues that cannot even that cannot be bent, that are not negotiable because it is the Constitution that spells them out. So issues like this are in the Constitution. So the Constitution contains several sections that talk about financial issues, issues that are related to finance, pension of public officers, and so on. And then other laws, there are now other laws after the Constitution, different acts that also relate to financial activities of government organization. The Public Procurement Act, for example. The Public Procurement Act is the one that guides how government organizations make their procurement, that is, the way they make purchases, the way they award contracts of construction, and so on and so forth. The the Fiscal Responsibility Act, for example, as well. The Fiscal Responsibility Act, this is also a topic itself on its own that we're going to talk about later. Talk about how public officers are supposed to deal with public finance, the way they are supposed to um, manage public finance in a responsible manner. So that's public fiscal responsibility act. That's another law that guide operation of finances in the public sector. Other laws, the Money Laundering Act, the one that prohibits individuals and organizations from engaging in money laundering. We have Code of Conduct Bureau, the Code of Conduct Act that talk about how public officers are to conduct themselves, how they are supposed to declare their assets. You can see that these are issues that relate to accounting and finance. They are financial issues. So these are laws that guide how these things, how these issues has to be, settled. These are all these ones I mentioned. They are in one topic or the other that they will be detailed later. I said that this topic we are treating tonight is like an executive summary. We also have the Pension Act. The Pension Act talk about, okay, people that work for 35 years, for 40 years, for 60 years old, and all of that. Okay, when they retire, how will they get their entitlement? Well, how much will they get, and all of that. Those are financial issues also the different set of financial issues. There's a law guiding that one too. We'll talk about that one too. That one is on another topic entirely itself. It also so and so on, and several other laws as well that guide um, public sector accounting and finance. Then we'll now talk about the accounting standard, that is the International Public Sector Accounting Standard, the IPSAS that we mentioned earlier. That one also several IPSASs that guides how financial statements are to be prepared, how transactions are to be treated, recognition, measurements, the recognition of different transactions or different components of financial statements. Okay, so in public sector accounts, are we together, please? Okay, let me hold on here and see if anybody have any questions so far from on what we have done so far. Do you have anybody that have anything to ask so far? All right, all right. Does anybody have questions to ask so far? Okay, Olua Shola.
Yes, I have a question. Sorry.
All right, please go ahead.
Please, I want to assume this class is like recorded, so I can download it and keep, going through your lectures time and time again, so that I can, because even though I understand it, but I want to keep going in like for revision purposes and for understanding purpose. Is it possible
Okay,
to?
okay. I believe the class is recorded. We usually record. Mr. Yusuf. Are you available to answer that?
I think
KB.
there's a YouTube recording already, so he can check it
Yeah, of
after.
course, and of course, there's also a YouTube recording of the class also, so you can always check.
Thank you so much. I
You can
appreciate
always
it.
check YouTube to get the recording. Yes, I remember. There's a YouTube recording.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So some people are even joining us on the YouTube. Once the once this platform is full, some people will have to join through the YouTube. So some people are on the YouTube joining us. Okay. Any other question before we fire on?
Please, I want to ask, labor union, are they part of internal users of PSC?
Uh, yes. I believe so. They are internal users because the labor unions are uh, also staff. The people we know as labor unions, they are employees. They are employees of the organization that they form a union. You understand? So they are part of internal users as well.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So when we have talked about the laws that guide public sector accounting information. We have talked about the users of those accounting information. Okay, let's begin to go down towards the recording and reporting of those accounting informations that these users want to use. Okay, or that these laws that we mentioned want to guide the the recording and reporting of these accounting informations of government organizations. Okay, so in recording, in accounting, there is what is known as basis of accounting. Okay, so basis of accounting. All right, let me see. Who am I seeing first? Mr. Hassan. Mr. Hassan, are you active? Mr. Hassan is not with us. Okay, Daramola, let's hear you. Daramola Precious, let's hear you. Oh, maybe that was a mistake. Okay. Okay, this fine man, Mr. Babatunde, are you on call? Mr. Babatunde, are you on the call? He's not. Okay. Hmm. All right. Who else can I call?
Can you hear me?
It's like I'm not. It's like I'm not. Okay, who is that? Who's speaking? Okay.
Babatunde,
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
I didn't get your I didn't get your question.
Okay. My question is, what do you understand by basis of accounting?
Okay. The basis of accounting.
Hmm.
I think they are the uh,
Okay. I'm seeing some people that are raising their hands.
okay. Okay.
Who is raising hands?
Let me listen to those people.
Uh, yeah. Who is raising hand? Let's hear you. Alaji Isa. Oh, yeah. Let's hear you, Alaji Isa. Okay.
Hello, sir.
It's like, okay. Yes.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. The basis of accounting that you are asking of, Are they the
All right.
basis in which the preparation of financial statements have been made, which is the cash basis and the accrual basis?
I'm asking now, so I want to tell me. Yes, now I'm asking. That's why I want you to tell me. And it's accrual basis and cash basis. But what does that basis of accounting? What does it mean? We all know. Everybody knows. I said earlier that we are all accountants, so everybody knows that there is something known as cash basis. There is something known as accrual basis. Abi, okay. There is nobody in this room that I've never heard of cash basis or accrual basis before. But what does that basis? What does it mean?
Good evening, sir.
All right. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you for hosting us tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining
Um,
us.
sir, the accrual basis, from my own point of view, is the
I'm
basis
not asking
rather.
for a basis.
The basis is just like the method. Let me just say the method whereby transactions are being recognized.
Hmm.
Yes, just like the my other sister has said, she said that we have the cash and the accrual basis. So I think that cash basis is like when the cash is received, then the transaction is being recorded.
Hmm. I want to use physical clap. I don't want to use digital clap for you. Let me use physical clap. Uh-huh.
Then
Okay.
the accrual basis is
It's okay.
when
It's
the
okay.
transaction occurs.
Hmm. I said it earlier. You people were laughing me. I said that meaning of PSAF uh, that we examined earlier, that we examined first. That meaning of PSAF. With that one, I know you people are ready to write exam. See somebody now that is already giving us. Okay. So basis of accounting is just something simple. There's no much to wrench there. How transactions are to be recognized and measured is what basis is about. That's what basis of accounting is about. How transactions are recognized and how they are measured. So we now have cash basis, we have accrual basis. Now in public sector, we also have other bases, though they are no more commonly in use, but they are part of the basis of accounting in the public sector. The uh, modified cash basis, there is the modified accrual basis, and then there is the other one that is known as the commitment basis.
Commitment.
All right. So within 2.5 seconds, let me quickly run down what these bases are about. Cash basis, all of us know it. Abi, if you don't know cash basis, what should we do now? What should I even say? If you don't know, if anybody does not know cash basis, um, that person should what should I even say? Okay, let me just skip that one. Cash basis is about cash, is about payments. That is, a transaction is not recognized. The organization will not recognize any transaction until payment is involved. Now, the payment is either inward or outward in this case. So, until payment is involved, they will not recognize any transaction. That is cash basis. All right. That is, if you earn income, if there is income until you receive the money, that is when you know that you have earned income. If there is an expenditure, until you make the payment, that is when you know that you have incurred expenditure. That is when you recognize it in your records that you have incurred expenditure. Now, the measurement aspect of it is that it is that amount, the exact amount that you pay or that you receive that you recognize. You know that normally in accounting, if you make sales, for example, and you have not received the money, that does not stop you from recording the sales. Abi, do we all agree to that? If you agree, if we make sales and you
Yes.
make and you if you have made sales, you don't need to receive the money before you record the sales. Even if you have not received money, you are supposed to record sales. But in cash basis, it's not like that. Oh. Until you receive the money, that's when you know that you have made sales. That one is what our northern brothers called Gakudi Gawona. You receive money, then you make sales. If you are incurring expenditure until you pay the person, that's when you know that you have incurred expenditure. So if you have not paid in your own record, you have not incurred expenditure. That's cash basis in summary. And then accrual basis is like the opposite of cash basis. That one, you recognize expenditures and the revenue when the transactions that qualifies those expenditure and revenue has happened. That is, you recognize revenue when it is earned, and you recognize expenditure when it is incurred. There is a standard for revenue recognition. In FR, you treat that standard very well. I think it's IFRS 15 or thereabouts. That standard talk about some parameters, some criteria that you must see for you to recognize that revenue has happened. You must satisfy some conditions for you to recognize revenue. So once those conditions are satisfied, in fact, receiving money is not part of the criteria. Once those criteria are satisfied, you recognize revenue, whether you have received money or not. Once you have justified the transaction between you and the other party, you recognize revenue. The same thing with expenditure. As long as the what qualifies that expenditure has happened, you already incurred the expenditure. If you ask somebody to supply you goods, the moment they supply the goods and you receive it and put it in your store, you're already in gbese. You have get gbese. So what this means is that you're already due for payment. So you have incurred that expenditure. That is accrual basis. So accrual basis recognizes revenue when they are earned, not when they are paid for. And it recognizes expenditure when they are incurred, not when you make payment for it. So that's accrual basis. Now, these bases, they have their own advantage. They have their own disadvantage. Cash basis, for example, is very simple to operate. You don't need experts. You don't need chartered accountants to even operate cash basis, because that one is very simple. You see the way we enumerated it. You collect money, you record it. You pay money, you record it. Simple. No stress. No debtors. No creditors. No receivables. No payables, and so on. No depreciation and all those things that used to give you headache. All those ones are not there. I wish they can even continue. Let us be using that cash basis, so that everybody will not have stress. But if every organization is using cash basis, they will not need chartered accountants. So all of us will not have markets. So accrual basis has its own advantage, but the disadvantage of that cash basis is that it does not give the true picture of what the organization looks like. Are we together? I believe my audio is clear.
Yes, sir, you are clear.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
it's
sir.
clear.
Okay, so the cash basis disadvantage there is that it will not give a true picture of what the organization looks like, because the organization might be having debts, but because they have not paid for it, they didn't record it as an expenditure. They might have made sales, but because they have not received money, they didn't record it. So it doesn't show the true picture of what the organization looks like. But when it comes to accrual basis is technical. You have to think of receivables, think of payables, think of how to sort out depreciation and so many other matters, so many other palaver. But the advantage is that it will give you the perfect picture of what the organization looks like. No slight detail is missed when you are using accrual basis. Now we move to the modified ones. So those ones they are neither here or there. They are I believe they developed those methods before many organizations now switched fully to the accrual basis. Because presently in Nigeria, I think a lot of government organizations have switched to accrual basis. Many state governments are now using accrual basis. I know many state governments that are using accrual basis, even though it's as a result of pressure from international organizations, international donor and international funders, project funders, especially World Bank and which other one? UNDP, USAID, and the rest of them. Pressuring them that come, if you have to continue to give you grants, if people need to do better with your accounting system. And one of the ways is that you need to stop using cash basis. Use accrual basis. So many state governments are now switching to accrual. I believe the federal government have switched completely. I don't think the federal government is using cash basis any longer. So now these modified bases are meant to, still being used for those that have not switched completely to the accrual basis. So if you look at the modified cash basis, for example, how does it look? The modified cash basis gives you 3 months window for you to still record the transaction of the previous period. What we said is that cash basis, it is in the period that the transaction happened that you record them. So as we are in 2025 now, all the transactions that happened in 2024, the ones that we received the money in 2024, we will record them in 2024 accounts. The one that we received in 2025, we will record them in 2025 accounts. That's how cash basis works. If the federal government receive rice in December 2024, if they buy rice in December 2024 and say we want to share this rice as a Christmas rice for people, and they have not paid until December ended, under cash basis, they will not record the money for that rice as 2024 purchases, that they bought rice in 2024, they will not record it. So when it reaches their January ending and they made payments to the supplier, they will now record the purchase of that rice. They will now record it in 2025 as a purchase of 2025 rice. That is how cash basis works. But if it is now the modified cash basis, the modified cash basis will now give you room of 3 months into the new year to still record transactions that relate to the previous year, to still record it as part of the transactions of that year. So, for example, the example of rice that we gave now, the rice that we bought in December that we shared to people for Christmas, we now made the payment in January. The modified cash basis says, okay, you are allowed, go and record it as part of 2024 transactions. Since we know that the rice has been supplied in 2024, go and record it as part of 2024 instead of recording it in 2025. That's how the modified cash basis works. Now, the
sorry, you mean they have to go back to adjust it?
No, it's not like you know that normally when a year ends, that is when you begin to prepare the financial statement of that year. Do you understand? In 2024, for example, it's not possible for you to publish the financial statement of 2024 on December, before 2024 ends, because the transaction can still happen on 31st of December. So it is on that until that year ends before you begin to prepare the financial statements of that year. So by the time they are preparing the financial statement of that year, since they know that they are using the modified cash basis, that transactions that relates to that year will still be recorded. So they will still leave room. So which means they will not close the account of 2024 until the end of that 3 months in 2025, which is March 31st. So until March 31st, they will still open down the account of 2024. So those transactions that relate to 2024, if they now happen again, they will still go and record it in 2024 accounts. Is that clear now?
So meaning if I want to get you well, so they will adjust it in the previous year, which is 2024. But when they make the payment, is 2025 now. Is it the payment that they will use, or the the date at which they receive the goods, which is rice.
Okay.
Which
The
transaction data are they going to consider?
Of course, if you are talking about transaction dates, they will use the date they made the payments. But when they want to record it, in your financial statement will not carry the date of each transaction. Your financial statement is a summarized document. It will not carry the date of every transaction. Do you understand? Your financial
Yeah,
statement,
yeah,
the
yeah.
financial statement will not carry the date of every transaction. It's a summarized document. So the users of the financial statement do not care which particular date each of the transactions that make up 2 billion naira that we have recorded as purchase of rice happen. So it might happen different times all over the year. Are, are we together?
Hello, sir.
Hello, hello, sir.
Hello.
All right.
That you say that
Yes, yes, yes.
they allow 3 months. So what happens if somebody the payment is being made after 3 months, like AFC? So how would that be
Of
treated
that
before the
that will just be
publication?
recorded. It will just be recorded into the year that the transaction was paid. It will be recorded as transaction of that year
Oh,
that the money
okay,
was paid. Yes. So
okay.
anything after that 3 months, it will be recorded. It will be
Sorry,
taken as
tutor.
cash basis. It will be taken on cash
Okay.
basis. All
Hello,
right.
sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah. How about if it is a taxable, it is a VAT goods, which supposed to be reported after 21 days of transaction. How can we record that, sir?
If it's a vatable transaction,
Valuable goods, yes. We are
yeah,
dealing with
you
here.
you can. Do you pay VAT? Will VAT be paid on credit? VAT cannot be paid on a credit transaction now. If a transaction happens and is on credit, it is until that customer pays that's when you can give VAT to the government now. You cannot take your own money and use it to pay VAT to government. Abi?
Okay, but you say you will record it
Do you
because
get what I'm saying?
mean that it will not be recorded in the books because if the tax authority comes, they will check your
And
books.
even if the tax authority comes and they want to track VAT, what will they use? They will use your receipts. The tax authority will use your receipts to track VAT, isn't it? They will use your receipts, your cash book. That's what they will use to track VAT. The monies you receive for the goods you have sold is what they will use to track VAT. The tax authority cannot ask you to pay VAT with your own money since the customer have not paid.
Okay, okay, sir.
I believe okay. So let's move to the modified accrual basis. The modified accrual basis, that one is a situation where they use different bases to treat revenue and expenditure. So what the modified accrual basis does is that it recognizes revenue using cash basis, and then they will recognize expenditure using accrual basis. I believe it's very clear. Revenue, they will recognize it based on cash basis. They will use cash basis to treat all their revenue, and then they will use accrual basis to treat their expenditures. That's modified accrual basis. So, like I said earlier, all of these bases,
Please, can you take
they,
that again, sir?
they okay, I said what the modified accrual basis does is to use cash basis to treat revenue. They will use cash basis to recognize revenue. That is, they only recognize revenue when they receive money. All right. But when it comes to expenditure, they will use accrual basis to treat it. So, which means they will recognize the expenditure when they incur it. Instantly, as they incur the expenditure, they will recognize it. But for revenue, until they receive the money, that's modified accrual basis. So, of all, okay, there is still the commitment basis. So, the commitment basis recognizes transaction based on commitments. Once the organization shows interests, once the organization declares interest in a particular transaction, in a particular expenditure, for example, they recognize it as though they have incurred that expenditure. So if, for example, this organization needs books, let's say the State Universal Basic Education, they need textbooks to share to primary school pupils. And then they write a letter to Macmillan Books to publish books for them, that publish 2 million copies of mathematics textbooks and supply to us. The moment they write that letter to request Macmillan to supply the books, and Macmillan agrees, and they sign a contract that we will supply you 2 million textbooks, 2 million mathematics textbooks, that organization will recognize they will recognize that expenditure immediately, that they have incurred expenditure of 2 million mathematics textbooks at the cost of maybe 500 million naira. That is the commitment basis. All right. If an organization writes to them as well and say, we want you to supply us this, and then they sign a contract that, okay, we should supply something. You know, that is a sale that is about to come in, but we have not even made the sale. We have not even produced what we want to supply to them. The moment that we have signed that contract, it's a commitment basis system. We recognize it that we have made sales. You recognize it that we have we have seen sales. That is commitment basis. So it is based on commitments and contractual agreements. That is how they recognize transactions. So those are the major basis of accounting that we have in the public sector. But basically, the cash and the accrual basis are the most commonly used. And in fact, the accrual basis is the most acceptable basis of accounting that should be used. Okay, so I believe the class is supposed to end by 11, and I said I wanted to leave a little time for us to have questions generally. So let's go through a few more other issues, like 2 or 3 more other issues before we call it a day. Now let's look at fund accounting in public sector. So fund accounting in public sector is basically talking about the resources that the public sector organizations use, the resources that they use. How do they account for these resources? So fund accounting talked about how resources are being kept in separate accounting, the ways
So please, I have
resources
a
are being
question.
Okay, please, maybe you should hold it till when we say we can. Can you hold it? Can you note it down to when we declare for questions, so that we can quickly
Uh,
rush up the
I
remaining?
don't know. Maybe it will be useful after the class. You made mention
Okay.
of three. You made mention of five bases,
Okay.
but you explained only four.
No, I explained all the five.
Remaining, I cannot
Which
grab
one is
that
remaining?
commitment basis.
Okay, you cannot grab it. Not that I didn't explain
Okay.
it. Okay. I said the commitment basis recognizes transaction based on commitment and contractual agreements. That is, once the organization has a contract, once they are in a contract, once they sign the contract with another organization or individual for a particular transaction, they recognize that transaction as if it has happened. So if they want to if they ask one organization to supply them goods, for example, and they have signed agreement that okay, we will supply. I give example of textbooks. That let's say Universal Basic Universal Basic Education, the State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB. We all know SUBEB, that organization that takes care of primary schools in our states. If they say they need textbooks, they want to share to primary school pupils, and then they meet one publisher to produce this textbook and supply 2 million textbooks. The moment they sign contract with that publisher, they will recognize that transaction as if it has happened, and they will record it as an expenditure, even though they have not received this textbook, the textbook have not been supplied. So the same way, the other way around, if an organization approach them to supply a particular goods or service, the moment they sign contract with that organization, they will recognize that revenue as an income already, even though they have not provided that service, talkless of even receiving money. So that is commitment basis. So we are not talking about fund accounting. I believe that is clear, right?
Yes, sir, it's very clear.
Okay. So we are not talking about fund accounting. We said fund accounting involves how resources are being accounted for separately. The different resources of government, they are being accounted for, they are being held separately and being accounted for, especially when those resources are meant for special purposes. So the way they will be accounted for separately is what is known as fund accounting. And in the public sector, there are different classifications of what is known as funds. So there are the government funds, there is the proprietary funds, and there is the fiduciary funds. The government funds refers to those resources that are gotten from general government operations. So the resources that government gets from their general operations, how do they account for them separately? The way they account for them is what is known as government funds. So those separate accounts, those separate uh, ways that they use to account for those resources that they get from the general operations, like maybe um, taxes, sales of assets, and so on. Those resources that they get from there, the way they account for them separately are in their government funds. What is known as government funds? So examples of government funds, we can have the consolidated revenue fund. Consolidated revenue fund is something we will learn later as well. So don't stress yourself that you don't know what consolidated revenue fund means. It's something you learn later. It's just a fund where government records all their revenue. That's why it is called consolidated. So all revenues are recorded there. So government funds generally is just referring to how government accounts for resources that they get from their general operational activities. And then proprietary funds now refers to how government accounts for resources that they get from business activities that they engage in, or from activities of parastatals of government. So you know that government also engage in business. Government do all sorts of business. Businesses that private companies do. Some governments too engages in business. Some governments have farms. Some governments have poultry. Some governments even have companies that produce some goods. So those resources that they get from those business activities, how they account for them are through what is known as the proprietary funds. And then fiduciary funds. The fiduciary funds are the when we hear fiduciary, it means somebody is keeping something for another person. So it's like trust fund. That is the resources that governments are keeping in trust for other people that those resources belong to. Those are the fiduciary funds. All right. So those are the classes, the classifications of the funds that we have. Now, these funds, now we have the types of those funds. What are the types of the particular types of funds that government keep? So we'll now talk about the different types of funds, like the general fund. So the general fund now particularly talk about the funds that are used for general administration, like the consolidated revenue fund that I mentioned earlier. And then we have what is known as the capital development fund. The capital development fund, we can also call it capital project fund. So this one is where how government accounts for the resources that they want to use for capital projects, for constructions of roads, construction of buildings, building of hospitals, all those capital projects that we know that governments do. the funds, the resources that they will use for those projects are usually accounted for in what is known as the capital development fund or capital project fund, whichever way you choose to call it. And then there are special funds. So government can decide at its high level, high power meeting, high level meeting, decision making level, and say, let's create so fund for ourselves where we can account for this some certain classes of resources. Let me give an example. During uh, one of the previous governments in Nigeria, they used to have an account known as excess crude account. That means that time the government budgeted certain amounts that they will be selling crude oil per barrel. So it happened that they were selling it higher than the amounts that they budgeted that they will be selling it. So they decided to create a fund and they were keeping that excess there. So let's say they planned that they will sell crude oil for $50. And then when they started drilling and took crude oil to the market in that year, they were selling for like $70. So that extra $20, they were keeping it in one fund. They called it the excess crude account. That's one. It's a special fund. They just create it. There's also one that is known as ecological fund. The government have one fund they call ecological fund. Government keep money there. They account for money in that fund for the purpose of uh, tackling ecological issues, natural disasters when they happen. So when flooding happen in one state or the other, federal government will go to the ecological fund. They draw money and give it to NEMA and say, oh yeah, NEMA, go to so state, go and give them relief. That's sometimes when they are emphasizing, when they are predicting some disasters like flood as well, federal government can say, okay, you can draw money from the ecological fund and share it to states. That, oh yeah, use this money to do flood prevention measures around all the rivers in your state. That's is a special fund that they just create. And then there's also a fund known as contingency fund. That contingency fund is like you can call it emergency fund. They just account for some resources there for the purpose of tackling uncertainties, occurrences that they don't expect, and it just happens, like maybe pandemic or war, God forbid. So when it happens, they would use the resources from those funds to take care of issues like that. There's also trust fund. So there are different trust funds that we now have. Trust fund, like I said earlier, is like somebody is keeping something for another person. So those trust fund means that those resources does not belong to the federal government, but it's the federal government that is keeping those resources. They are keeping it for the people that own them. For example, the pension fund. Many of us here are working now, so we have pension contribution being deducted from our income. That income, those deductions, those pension deductions, when they deduct it, they take it to Pencom, or I mean, they take it to pension fund administrators. They keep it with pension fund custodian and all those things. And then it is the federal government that is the custodian of those funds. That is the overall the chief custodian of those funds. They are keeping it in trust for the people that own them. Another example is these different trust fund, petroleum trust fund, education trust fund, that are deducted from profits of some companies, and they are used for maybe scholarship, or they are used for building construction in tertiary institutions and so on. These funds are deducted from profit of companies. So federal government keeps them and then they use it before they later give it to those institutions that that merits them. So those are trust funds. So it's like keeping it for the people that own them. That's trust fund. So there are other funds as well. Revolving fund. This one is when a department of government is servicing other departments of government, and then those funds will still find their way back to that organization that released the fund in the first place. Maybe like vehicle loan. that government gives to their staff. Government gives vehicle loans to their staff. Those staff will still pay back. The money will come back to that fund again. They will still use that money to give other people. That's revolving fund. Or the one that they just started now, the student loan. When there's an office that is in charge of that student loan fund. When they give loans to those students, later when they pay back, they'll come back to that office again. They will still use that same money to give another set of people. That's revolving fund. So that's about that's a summary about fund accounting for us. So lastly, within 2-3 minutes, I'll just round it up by looking at the comparison of public organizations and private organizations. So, but before I go into this, I want to note one point. And last diet, when we were doing our revision class, Mr. Philip mentioned that thing. It is important for us to note it. And it is the fact that when you are in PSAF class or you are in PSAF exam, see yourself as a government official. Okay, so you see that everything I've been mentioning since, I'm trying to relate. I'm not just mentioning a company I'm not been mentioning a company. No, I'm trying to relate it to known government organizations. I've been giving examples of government organizations. So you see yourself as if you are a government official. You are inside a government organization. So it will allow all these things to come to you easily, for you to get it very well. So in essence, what we are saying is that what we'll be doing throughout this course, we'll be talking about government organizations. We don't want we want to leave FR for private organization matters. So anything that relates to private organization, be discussing it in FR. Here, when we get here, we are a government official. So I can see Rebecca is a minister. Kausar is a senator. So Ismail is a permanent secretary. So you see yourself like that. Akogberu is the accountant general of Delta State. So you see yourself as a government official. Mubarak is the director of finance and accounts in the presidency. So you see yourself as a government official. So let's look at comparison of government organization and private organization. What differentiates them? The first one, somebody is already claiming accountant general too. Okay, me too, I'm the accountant general. Yes. Precious, yes, you're accountant general. I can see even this your Google self. This your avatar Google looks like that of accountant general. Okay, so one major thing that differentiates government organization and private organization, we all know, is profit. Profit orientation. Government organizations are not established for profits. Private organizations basically are established to make profits. So that one is a major distinction between the two of them. Aside that, their sources of revenue also distinguish them. Private organizations source their revenues basically from what? From sales. They source their resources from sales, private capital, bank loans. Government organizations, their own source of revenue, the major source of revenue for government organization comes from what? Subvention, government budgets, the taxes of people put into these organizations. That's a source of revenue for government. Their legal formation as well. Let's look at their legal formation. How are they formed? Private organizations are formed under which law? Who can tell us the legal framework that are used to establish private companies, private organizations?
Company and
The
allied
CAC.
matters.
Yes, they are formed through the CAC, and they are governed by somebody is mentioning Company and Allied Matters Act. Yes. So they are governed by the Company and Allied Matters Act. If you read through the CAMA, the entire corporate governance provisions of companies is treated there. How directors are appointed, how the auditors are appointed for them, and all those things is inside CAMA. But for public organizations, most of them are established by their own laws. There is a separate law that usually establish them. If you look at CBN, they have a CBN Act. That's why some years ago, when one president tried to remove CBN governor, there was a lot of legal uproar in the country. They said, no, the CBN Act have stated how the CBN governor can be removed, this and that. Everybody was quoting law. Nigerians everybody will become lawyers. If you look at any organization you look at around you, you see that they have a law that established them for government organizations. You see, even many of our universities and polytechnics, they are established by law. They have their own laws. They will say Federal University or ACTI Establishment Act, University of Ilorin Establishment Act. So that is government organizations, how they are formed. Even the states, we are not even talking about about CBN or university now. We are even talking about states. Those state governments, they have laws that establish them. It's inside the constitution. The constitution stated it. We are going to have so number of states, and these are the states that we are going to have. That's a law that established them. So then we now move forward to look at their budgeting, and then yes, their budget approach. If you look at budget approach of public sector and private sector, in private sector, budget is a flexible thing, the flexible concept. Private companies, I don't know, there are even some organizations that people working there, they are not even privy to the budget of their company. It's a private thing. They keep it private within the board of directors. Only concerned people will see it, and they can change it anyhow they like. But that is not the case for public organizations. For public sector organizations, budget is a rigid thing. It's a public document and it's a rigid thing. So it means budget cannot be changed easily. So when we get to part B of the syllabus, we'll talk about budgeting. And the tutor in charge will talk about budgeting extensively, how it is prepared, how everything that concerns budget will treat it. So in public sector, the point we want to make from there is that budgeting is rigid in public sector. You cannot change budget anyhow. If you budget 10 naira for biro, it is 10 naira that you must use for biro. You must not use that 10 naira for something else. The money you budget for one thing, you use it for another thing. That person is already on his way to jail. Kiri kiri. You will not see that. So budgeting, what we are saying is that budgeting is rigid in the public sector and is usually made public. So you can see that the approach of the two organizations to budgeting is also different. Now, budget and annual reports in public sector and private sector is like other and opposite in the two organizations. You see, in private sector organizations, they're not usually bothered about budget. There is no usually emphasis on their budgets like that. People are not usually interested in the budget of private companies. Even if you are a shareholder, there are many shareholders of First Bank. There are people that have been shareholders of First Bank since 1960s till today. They have not even seen the budget of First Bank for once. But annual reports, people are interested in the annual report of private companies more than they are interested in their budgets, because they want to see their profits, they want to see the dividends that will come to them. That's the private company for you. But when it comes to government sector, people are interested more in their budgets. than they are interested in their annual reports. You see that the news you usually hear in the noise you usually hear in the news is usually about budget. They say, federal government budget this one for that one, they budget this one for that one. We did not budget this one for, they did not budget money for so and so. But hardly will you hear noise in the news about annual report of government. In fact, many people do not even know that government produces annual reports, and they do. They even publish it. Some states publish their own on their website that you can even go to the state's website and download it, their annual reports, their financial statements. But people are not usually interested. People are interested in their budget. I don't know why. So that's how that tool works. And then the accounting in accounting in the public sector and the private sector. In the public sector, the accounting is guided by IPSAS in the public sector. In the private sector, accounting is guided by what? IFRS and IAS. I think that one is very clear. Then finally, there are the solution. When you want to dissolve a private company, what do? You use liquidation. They are liquidated, and then all the resources that are gathered will be shared to the shareholders, abi, after settling the liabilities. But for public organizations, even if a public organization is dissolved, all the assets, the properties will go back to government, and then government will use it for something else. It's not like they will now say, maybe the organization is for the public, let's share the proceeds to everybody. It doesn't work that way. So that is those are the key points that I'm able to uh, draw from the introduction to public sector accounting and finance. These are the summary of the different areas that we will be talking about throughout the course. So you can see that many of the things we talk about now, we have not talked about them deeply. So thank you very much for the applause. We have not talked about deeply. Jude, I've seen you. I'll call you for the hands you raised. So we are not talking about many of them deeply. We are only, just highlighting them. So that's why I said this chapter and today's class is like an executive summary to the course. So we'll be talking about budgeting in deep. We'll be talking about pensions. We'll be talking about government business enterprises. We'll be talking about um, the organizations that guides ethical behavior of public officers. We will be talking about the duties of different public officers in the public sector. We'll be talking about the reporting of public sector organizations, how they report. We're talking about after they prepare the report, how they will be audited. All these things. This is the summary of what the course looks like. It's not something special. It's not something that will, I know that some of us might have tried to read the study pack, especially those of us that are taking the course for the first time. We have tried to read the study pack, and the language may look somehow to you that what are they even saying here like this? You are not familiar with the language they are using. Don't be scared. All what I'm just highlighting now, that's what we'll be talking about. How they prepare budgets in public sector, how they report their accounts, how they prepare pension, how they do pension, how they pay pension, the guidelines that are guiding the behavior of public officers, their duties, the duty of public officers, how public sector organizations are audited. Generally, that's all we'll be talking about. So the person that was raising hand, can you quickly take the floor in a few seconds? Quickly ask a question.
Okay, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you.
Yeah. My own is first and foremost is observation.
Okay.
The class we had by 7 p.m. that was FR. was properly coordinated. But this particular class, like everybody, mic was like almost opened, and the thing has seriously interrupt the class. So my observation is like, I think maybe in some, maybe subsequent class, maybe you mute everybody, then you give time for questions, you understand, and contribution, so that the class can be well coordinated. Yes, that's my observation. Then two is about the last explanation you did about the difference between the public sector and the private sector concerning their budget and the type of revenue they based on. I think you talked about the budget aspect of it. You talk about the public sector budget is very rigid, and I think is an appropriation act, if I'm not making any mistake. And concerning their annual report, is their the question is basically on the annual report. Is their annual report the same thing as a budget performance?
Okay. When we say annual report is not just one document. So you see that budget performance that you mentioned is just one aspect of the annual report of government organization. I think that annual report, I mean that budget performance you mentioned is a standard. There's a standard that covers it. I think it's IPSAS 24. Is it yeah? Maybe yes, I think so. I think I'm right. IPSAS 24 covers it. That the comparison of budget with actual performance. So it's one aspect of the annual report of government organization as well. So we still treat it, God willing.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Any other question? Anyone else with questions?
Yeah, I think we
things
should
that we
draw the
mentioned tonight, and pardon?
I think we should draw the curtain here. And it is past 11 already.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
1 minute.
Thank
Please,
you.
there is this.
Let's give him, Mr.
Can you hear
Mubarak.
me? Yeah.
So sorry, we
Are
are
you
closing
listening?
the class now.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you for the class. Thank you for your time. Thank you for
God bless you, sir. Thank you, sir. God bless you.
for this. So we appreciate you, and we appreciate every other person, all the students that have joined. It is past 11 already, and many of us might want to go to office tomorrow. So if we continue to attempt to questions, we will not leave here tonight. So I will see you guys in the next one. Next class should be on. I think
Friday.
it should be on Friday. That Friday class. Still contemplating it because those people that are supposed to hold it, they are having. They are still, but we'll discuss. I thought there was a message because I remembered in the morning I said a message should be sent to the group to communicate the change in the time. But I think perhaps maybe
For today, right?
Yes, I said it in the morning.
It was sent. The message was sent.
Okay, it was sent. Okay. That's fine. So then, good night, all. Thank you, Mayoga.